I thought I'd paint this farmhouse today. Again, I'm working in my sketchbook. This is a photograph I took back in the late 70s, actually. I found this old farmhouse up in Michigan alongside the highway, and I thought this would be a fun one to do as a moody painting. The house has been abandoned for some time, and so I was able to get these close-up shots. So let's try this. Let's sketch this out. I think I'm gonna want to put a tree on this side over here. So I think what I'll do is I'll shift this house to the left side in the frame, and let's just go from there. So let's just see how quickly we can get this done. I know short videos are appreciated, and so I'm doing the side of the building first, and obviously we got this rough terrain at the bottom, these high overgrown weeds. How do I find that peak? Well, you X out the side where they cross, you go straight up, decide the angle you want. Okay, match this angle and this angle. I'm looking at this more. I think I'm going to raise this ground up even higher right there. And we've got this other roof coming at a different angle. Normally I would paint this box first and then exit and find that peak, but I wanted to get this roof angle in here correctly. And to do that, I felt like I needed to put this roof angle in first, and so I'll just kind of figure this one out without Xing out that side. There's the additional porch that's on here. Okay. Put a post there, and put another post right in that spot. I think for time's sake, maybe I'll just put in one chimney. And by Xing this out, I find the center. That kind of tells me where to place these windows. Just kind of straddle that center line. This window's a little larger down here. Again, I may not do much with these the details in this painting, or I may finish it after the video and then show you the finished product. And here's a window that's kind of off on the side. It's kind of different. Okay, so it's all overgrown. So I've got weeds in front, weeds behind. I'm going to just kind of give a slight indication of this tree, just to kind of locate the main trunk on it. Okay, that's pretty good. I think I'll bring in a taller tree on this side, but I'm not sure yet. Now, I don't know if you can see it in this photograph, but there's a checkered pattern on this roof. Sort of a muted red and a muted green. So we'll see if we can figure out how to do that. All right, that's close enough without getting too fussy about the perspective. It's close enough. My goal is to go real moody with this scene, so I'm going to get into the ultramarine blues, a little Payne's gray, and always test my colors on my test sheet. A little bluer. Okay. I'm using a number 10 round brush. I want to create some drama in here if we can. And I could go around this with a small brush, but by the time I did that, all these areas that I want to keep wet would start drying on me. So, best thing you can do is get in there with a big brush. Lots of water. We'll see if this sketchbook paper will tolerate this much water without buckling too bad. Okay, that's a basic first wash. I want to keep it a little lighter right in here, kind of create a light source. Pull some of that color out of there, that value. Again, I'm wiping it between strokes on my paper towel. That's too defined. Let's just break that up a little. But it's not as dark as I want to go, so I'm going to go a little darker. Panes, ultramarine blue, and some burnt umber. And here I'm adding a lot more burnt umber, and I might even add a touch of burnt sienna in there. But again, I'll go with a smaller brush and kind of tweak some of these shapes. I'm using the side of the brush, fan it out a little bit, quick strokes, trying to create this drama. Going to my ultramarine blue. You can see I fanned out this brush. Now I'm working a little bit small for something with this much action going on in it. But it's a challenge. It's still fun. It's a real challenge. Okay, I think I'm going to stop with the sky and go into the foreground. Again, ultramarine blue, burnt umber. You're pushing down on the brush, kind of mash it down. And I could have done the values in the house before I did this, but let's just see what happens. See how I have this fanned out. Dark here. Kind of soften that edge a little bit. I'm going to have the right side in the shadow like it is here. It's a little darker value here than it is here. Now I wipe the paint and the water off the side of my tape. If I leave it there, it could creep into the painting and give me blossoms where I don't want them. Let's just splatter a little water on here, just clear water. I'm up high with my brush. Watercolor dries lighter. I'm going in here with some strong burnt siennas. Just kind of want to warm it up a little bit, right in this part of the painting. All right, I think at this point I'm going to dry it real quickly. Okay, it still has some wet spots in it, but they're along the sides, so I can work on the house. So I'm going back to my ultramarine blue. And just tone down this side of the house. And I left my pencil lines in here from my preliminary drawing. And again, remember, this is a sketchbook. This is where you experiment. Got to go darker than that. Okay. So I'll tweak this, the little details of, any edges that I may want after I finish the painting. But right now I want to kind of block in the majority of the values and get it to feel right. This is burnt umber. Got a touch of ultramarine blue in it. There's a shadow cast onto the house from this porch. Let's just put that in. A little blue or a little more ultra. You get to certain stages like this and you feel like, wow, what a mess I have here. Is there any way I can pull this off? But you just have to hang in there and be patient. All right. I noticed the house has dark green trim on it. And I think I'll put some of that in too. This is a script brush, #1 script. It's great for detail. It doesn't hold a lot of paint, but it's great if you need to put in tree limbs or delicate little touches. Let's put these posts in too here with the value on it. Just remember, as a painter, you're not trying to duplicate a photograph. You're trying to turn it into a piece of fine art. The light's coming from my upper left. I think I'll have these posts casting a shadow onto the wall here, onto the outside. And this post here, I'll pull that back out with clear water, and that could also cast a shadow, but I think it might be inside that shadow, so I'm going to leave that alone. It's hard to just leave things suggested. You want to put in all the detail, but it's just not as much fun to look at as if you do it nice and loose and you take chances. You've got to take chances. There's that window right there. It kind of overlaps my shadow, but that's all right. I decided to put in just one window on the top here. Go back to my sap green. It's got a little blue in it, so it won't come out a real green. It might not even be noticeable. All right, these windows also have the green around them. This is only about 5 by 7 inches in size, so it's small. Doesn't leave a lot of room for going crazy with detail. Here's some yellow ochre. It's got a little of the green in the brush yet. Okay. I see ochre inside this window. Let's just put some of that right there. It's almost like it's a window shade, it looks like. Same thing here. And here also. All right, it's pretty dry except for a couple areas down here. Let's put that roof in. I think for that I'm going to use a 1/2 inch flat brush. And the roof seems like it's a little bit more green than it is red, but there is that checkered pattern in there. I'm going to start with sap green. Probably have a little ultramarine blue in my brush because I don't want it to be a bright green. Again, I'll tweak this after the demo to show you the finished product. And it's a little too much in there, so I'm just going to pull some out with my brush. I think I might have had 1 cup of coffee too much, a little shaky. Go back to my script brush with my dark green. Just give a little depth to this window. This is kind of a little sloppy right in here, and it's not quite as flat as I want. So I'm going to take my flat brush with just water in it and just try to smooth that out some. That's good. Maybe a little bit more ultramarine blue. Let's cool this off since it's in the shadow. Okay, so I dried the roof off. And now we'll lay that pattern in. See what we can do there. I'm going to take my number 6 round brush. I'm going to take some cadmium red medium. Now, if I'm concerned about stopping at the edge of the roof, again, I'll show you. I'll use my sticky notes. That way I don't have to, like I mentioned before, I don't have to put the brakes on. All right, that takes care of the red. Now let's see if we can put the green on and make it look as simple as it just did. I don't want it real green, it's going to be dark. But it's going over some red and the dark roof underneath, so it's probably going to be a little greener than normal. So I'm kind of mashing this brush down to get a blade out of it so my lines can be fairly thin. Again, you can use a sticky note if you think it'll help you. It's a little busy. We're seeing more than we need to see. So I'm going to come in here with some green in my brush. Well, this is still damp. I'm just going to calm down some of that color in the roof. Just gently move it around. I'm not using the point. I want to define this roof a little more. Push this section back. Maybe just a few little accent marks. I lost some of my value here. I got a little too dark, so I'm just going to take a flat brush, damp flat brush, no paint. Just pull that out a little bit. Go back to my yellow ochre, a touch of the Pains and Ultra. Just put some value on the right side of that chimney. I'll give a little indication of siding. Again, I'll use a sticky note. I'll go with my script brush. Just take a medium value gray. I don't want this too dark. And I'm just going to follow the perspective on it. Sometimes the more carefree you go with these strokes, not worried about getting into the windows, the better the painting is going to look. It's going to look more like a piece of artwork. And now on the side, I'm going to have to go just a little bit darker because it already has a value on it. Okay, now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, too much information. Let's just calm some of this down a little bit. Especially in here, but you gotta know that you can do that. You can take clear water and say, okay, let me make a change here. And if you're not familiar with watercolor, you don't think you can make changes. You think once you put it down, you're stuck. You got to live with it. And that's true depending on what kind of paper you're using. Some papers don't allow you to pick up paint very easily. But most of them will allow you to make some changes. Again, that's a little busy. I'm laying the brush on its side, just breaking it up a little bit. It's one of those cases where less is more. I'm going to go with my my mop brush. It's a real handy brush for a lot of trees, bushes, indication of leaves. So I'm going to get in here with some ultramarine blue, some again burnt umber. I'm keeping it all in the real dark range except for the house. And I fanned this brush out. You can see how that is fanned out. And if you push down gently, it'll stay fanned out for a while. You can make more than 1 or 2 strokes. But if you are heavy-handed with it, it's going to close up on you, and you won't get that effect. Again, I don't want much in here either. It's just going to wash that out to nothing. A little bit of ochre, just a touch of yellow ochre. Okay, we'll stop right there. Now, I think I might even come in here with my brush with a beveled handle. This is great. While this is damp, you can come in here and you can move the paint around a little bit. You have to practice it, find out how you have to turn this to get the effect. Again, it's like anything else, don't overdo it. I'm going to start to put a tree in here and maybe over here, and then I'm going to finish the painting off, some details, and then I'll show you the finished product. I'm going to start by going with my round brush, number 6 round brush. Again, I'm going to go pretty dark with this. Ultra, burnt umber, some Payne's. Mostly Payne's gray though, because I want this tree to stand out a little bit. I'm just going to use this to get in the main trunk. Nothing more than that. Then I'll go back to my small script brush. Pretty dark color here. Give it a double trunk. And I think I do want a tree on this side, so let's just go for it. This will be a tree in the foreground. We won't even see where the trunk meets the ground. Just trying to vision this. I don't want to take branches over the house right now until I decide what I want to do as far as playing with the house some more. And maybe there's even a smaller one right here. So I'm veering off the reference. There's no trees on that side of the house, but I think it gives some depth to the painting if I have some larger trees in the foreground. I think I'll stop right there. All right, I'm going to dry this, finish it off, and I'll show you the finished piece. Okay, this is pretty much finished now. I just wanted to show you how I would pull some values out of the sides of these trees. Again, the light's coming from the upper left. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen me do this, and it's a great way to give some definition to the trees without going into a lot of detail. Got the house where I think I want it. This is a time that I can then decide to have some tree branches, limbs coming over top the house. Pushes the house back. Just makes it a little more interesting. As you can tell though, I'm not overworking this, or I'm not taking too much time trying to figure out exactly where everything goes. Sometimes it's fun to go more spontaneous like this. And you'll like the results better. But remember, this is a sketchbook. This is where you can figure out issues you may have with a painting that you want to do on a larger scale. I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt umber and give a little splatter to it. That'll create a little atmosphere. All right, let's dry that and take the tape off. I don't normally tape things in my sketchbook, but sometimes it's nice to have a clean edge in there somewhere. Kind of frames it nicely. And the tape, since I used a lot of water in this, the tape helped hold the corners down so it didn't buckle on me too much. But there's the final result. Very suggestive, quite loose, but it's more fun to look at than going in and looking at everything being perfect, everything's precise. It's more fun to paint this way, and it's a challenge to force yourself to paint this loose. I hope this helps. Thanks.